are you doing? What?
I can't speak.
Why?
I have to do that. It's like a medium trying to contact somebody who's not there, like, who's there? You know, table knocking and stuff. Well, because, let's be quite honest, I mean, we don't usually say this, but, I mean, I'm not here, am I? Not really. I mean, neither are you. I mean, you're not here.
No, I'm in Belfast.
Exactly, you're in Belfast, actually, and we obviously, there's no point, people aren't that daft, they can't assume that I've got time to go whizzing around all over the world. I'd like to be in Belfast, last time I was there, I enjoyed it. But I can't be in Belfast, and so we've recorded this yesterday, because sometimes we do that, don't we?
And now it's tomorrow.
Exactly. When it's night time in Italy, it's Wednesday over here. But anyway, it just means that, you see, not only tonight can I say hello to Britain. The strange thing is, of course, well, with having recorded myself last night, so I'm not really here talking at all, I can actually say to myself, hello!
What?
I said, hello, me sitting at home, you know, because wonderful radio.
Shut up, Willie, I'm trying to watch the telly.
Oh, sorry about that. I mean, actually, of course, don't take any notice of him at home, because that's not really me, because I'm here and I'm not really at home, actually. I'm watching a film. Now, that's what I'm doing, that's true. I'm watching a film, and if it's any good, I'll tell you about it next week. But do you know what? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know, it's been Irish, as you might say. Do you know the bloke in the record library called Lawrence, ginger head? Little chap with a ginger head. Nice little chap. Nice chap, always speaks, always get on with him very well. Works in the library, but he's got like two little button eyes, hasn't he? And he used to have his hair very long, like a beard, ginger beard and ginger hair, and like a ginger edge. You know what I mean? Like two button eyes in a ginger edge. Nice chap, but a bit hippie-fied, I always used to think. Like he wore sandals a lot. And it's funny, because talking about pre-recording, because we don't often pre-record, but on the other hand, if you were doing Top of the Pops, yes, common sense tells you if you're live on the telly, we can't be there at the same time, so we don't tell people, but we're not always there. But, I mean, what happened was last summer, you know, when I was going to the National Theatre and all that sort of thing, we had pre-recorded one. I saw this short play at the National Theatre. Okay, it's a summer night. I'm walking back over whatever it is, Hungerford Bridge or whatever, I've forgotten which one it is. I'm walking over the bridge there, back to the station, sort of thing, Charing Cross, and then I suddenly see this, like, ginger gonk coming the other way, walking across the bridge, south, you see. I thought, oh, it's Lawrence out at the record library, and he's got headphones on, a little Walkman thing, you know, one of the little radio things, walking up, and suddenly he stopped and, hey, wow! He says, hey, and I walked up to him, he took the headphones off, he says, I'm listening to you on the radio, and you were here talking to me. Oh, wow! You know, they really, and I thought, gosh, you know, nurse! You know, there's a freaky hippie here. Bring some lentil soup and a drip feed, quickly, kind of thing. Changing the subject a bit from freaky hippies to something we don't usually do. Mozart. We don't usually do that. It's a new topic for us. Never done it before.
No.
When I say Mozart, Amadeus. Film,
yes.
You know.
Yes.
Amadeus, you see. What? Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, that was his name. You know, like Wolfgang Jack, those sorts of people, you know. He was like a disc jockey of his own time. No, Mozart, of course, the composer. And originally, the Amadeus was a play by a bloke called Peter Schaffer. I never saw it when it was on at the National Theatre, and then it was transferred to the West End, and Frank Finlay, I think, was in it, and so on.
That's right, it was.
Very well. People said it was great. I heard it on radio.
Yes.
Wonderful BBC radio, at least did bring it to us, and I thought, oh, I missed it on the stage, I'll hear it. Now, of course, they made a film, and this week it is something like the Royal Preview, or whatever it is, on Thursday. I got a sneak preview myself. I missed the very start, because it was all that snow. You know, a day or two ago, and they invited me to go along, and I went along. There's about 12 people in you know, a great big ABC Odeon kind of thing, because the snow is difficult to get there. The basic idea of the film, anybody who's had no connection with either Mozart's life or the play or anything else, of course, Mozart was, I mean, a genius, there's no question. I mean, when you sit at the age of 5, you play the piano, whatever you define a genius as, you perhaps don't want to hear Mozart, but clearly he was. And it's the basic sort of battle, this film, between Mozart and Salieri, who was the court composer at the Emperor Joseph II of, I don't know, Austria, Austro-Hungarian Empire, whatever it was. And he's there, Mozart comes to court, and he's a Burke, basically, you know, but once he sits at the piano, oh boy, you know, and he thinks, God, why not me? You know, and suddenly it dawns on him that he's going to go down in history as a sort of mediocrity, but he can see, sort of look at him, he'd see Mozart's tremendous. He's more successful than Mozart, but he can still see Mozart's really got what it's all about. And he just can't face this, and decides, really to sort of ruin him or kill him, whichever one, you know, in some way he's got to get it over him, you know, and sort of get his own name to the fore. And this apparently was based on fact, because this Salieri geezer did exist, although nobody listens to his music hardly today. And at some stage later in his life, when he was going a bit blah, 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 sort of thing, he did say that I killed Mozart, you know, ha, 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 kind of thing, you know, and he gave the impression that he did. But nobody's obviously ever sure. But the whole film is the basis of, like, the mediocrity who's really resentful of the great guy. And by the end of his life, it dawned on him that nobody was listening to his music, whereas Mozart, who he'd seen off earlier in life, 40 years before, was seen as the great composer of his time, obviously. But, I mean, the film itself is very opulent. You know, it's good looking, because obviously they've expanded the stage thing and so on. There's naturally more music in it, because they've got to have the whole... You can't have them just talking about operas like they do in the theatre. You have to have the whole thing on, you know, and bursts of opera and so on. But, I don't know, there may be people at home saying, oh, blimey, Mozart, I don't listen to all that sort of thing. I can't see why it's so wonderful. Well, I always think we can't appreciate... It's like old masters and paintings and so we can't see... You can't walk in and think, like, in Venice, when they stuck a Titian up, they must have thought, wow, this is really outrageous. You know, we think... Used to be on the wall at school, I know, it used to when I was a kid. You know, I think when I was at school, primary school, we used to have Van Gogh on the wall, sunflowers. He couldn't sell a painting in his lifetime. People thought he was loony. There it is on the school wall. You know, so it's difficult. We'll never be able to just get that same feeling of a Mozart's Day audience to Mozart. But, you know, it's quite clear that the man was a genius. There's no question of that. I mean, he was like the musical version of the music world's answer to Andrew Lloyd Webber, you might have say. But, I mean, he was able to do these things, which he does in the film, the actor does in the film. You know, they say, here, you may keep this march I have composed for you. And he says, no, that's fine. No, I've memorised it. They say, come on, sit down at the piano. And he sits down, rattles it off. You know, I mean, absolutely incredible. And there's one bit where he goes to a party and he pays a forfeit and they get him to play a tune, like at the piano. And then they say, come on, let's see if you can play it upside down. And apparently Mozart did used to be able to do this. They pick him up, roll him over. Oh, no. And they're holding him upside down at the piano. He crosses his hands, puts them over his shoulders. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, and it just rattles it off. I mean, you know, the fact that he was a bit of a Burke is neither here nor there, you know. I mean, he definitely had the gift. And the interesting thing is this Salieri geezer, the court composer, is really resentful. You know, he keeps saying, he'll help him, but he doesn't really help him. And at one stage he said, you know, when Mozart wrote Don Giovanni, you know, they put it on, and he said he made sure, like, because a lot of it's a recitative from this Salieri who's talking to the audience, and he said, by my influence, you know, I made sure it only ran for 5 nights. He said, but I was there for every one of those nights. You know, he couldn't resist saying, gosh, I can see the guy's a genius, but I've got to stop him. Mozart's played by Tom Hulse, who you probably won't know, except he was in Animal House. He's one of the guys in Animal House, which you might think's a bit strange. And Costanza, Mozart's a very ordinary scrubber of a wife, was Elizabeth Berridge, who again, American. That makes it difficult, because a lot of them are... There's Roy Dotrice in it, and some well-known American, very straight actors doing fairly Englishy Euro accents. And then Mozart... is really, you know, like that. You know, it's like Gappuccini. You know, and also the girl, the same. And when at one stage the mother faints on the stage, the emperor comes forward and this girl's mother's so impressed she passes out. The girl actually says, when my mother's fainted, get some water. Water! And you suddenly think, oh dear, it's like having the Waltons playing Mozart's life story, you know. But the trouble is, Milos Forman, who made One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, who's directed it, he says, well, Vienna was then like New York today. There was a lot of accents and things. It's difficult, you know, because we don't know that, do we? We're not used to that. You see, something that came up... It's not me trying to make contact again. Something that came up ages ago, and I was doing Walters Weekly, and, you know, like you see jokey things on the films, you know, historical things, and there's that famous thing of Tony Curtis when he said something like, yonder lies the castle of my father. You know, when he was the Black Knight of Falconers, and people say, ha ha. They didn't talk like that in Shakespeare's day. They talked like Glenda Jackson, because we've seen her doing... They didn't. No. You know, and I got some bloke from Oxford who'd done all this sort of research and so on. He said they would have said, love's labour's lost. You know, love, come live with me and be my love. You know, a very strange sort of accent, which was very hard. So it's difficult to say, but a lot of people will, I think, probably be put off by this sort of Waltons thing. And also, Mozart himself is a bit OTT. A little bit rude at times. But apparently he was, and they were. Not only is OTT, he's slightly... ODD. A little bit strange. He's very... Apparently he was also like this. I mean, he's quite inclined to say sort of like, oh, my Lord Emperor, sort of, I have written you this march. And go into one of these hysterical laughter. But apparently he wasn't very nervy sort of strange sort of a geezer. But I found this, I don't know, I mean, talented people that you've worked with in one way and another. I've always found people who've like got great memories, or they were very great at maths or whatever, or good musicians. Very often nature compensates and they can't quite cope with something else in life. Have you ever eaten with gambuccini? You want to go to a restaurant with gambuccini, and I'll tell you, this is really true, because, I mean, he's got a wonderful mind, you know, he can tell you any position of what any record got to or anything like that. If you go in, the waiter will say, spaghetti, signor, you've ordered spaghetti. He starts to get Parmesan cheese and scatter it around the restaurant. No, we're having... Don't get it, I don't want it all over me. He says, no, Signor Gambuccini has eaten here before, we know this. You know, as soon as you eat, well, boof, there's food all over the place. Wonderful. Not that Gambuccini's quite like Mozart at all, but on the other hand, you've got to be very careful. So, I thought it was interesting. I'll tell you what, from our point of view. What was interesting, if anybody goes to see this Amadeus, one of Mozart's main enemies, do you know who he was?
No.
He's the main enemy of a lot of people in this country at the moment. Measuring man. And there's one stage when he comes on and he's just rattled off this piece, and it's incredible. This kid's rattled off this piece. And the Emperor comes on and he says, oh, wonderful. I've so much enjoyed it, kind of thing. So I said, oh, did you think it was, you know, really a great piece of work? Kind of thing. And he said, oh, there was perhaps... And he looks, somebody whispers in his ear, too many notes. Too many notes, kind of thing. And that's the same thing. And he said, too many notes? What do you mean? You know, I'm quite right. Never mind about too many notes. But let's play a little bit. We don't normally do this on radio. A little bit from the soundtrack, which is excellent, of course, a little bit of operatic music by Mozart. Only a minute or so. We're just going to play this 1 minute. And it's, tutti contenti, which I suppose it means, well, everybody's all right, something like that. We're all content. From the Marriage of Figaro. Excellent little piece, obviously, you know. Not perhaps too many notes, but if any of you are thinking, Mozart, opera, I don't like this, well, switch on your flipping drum machine and pretend it's Malcolm McLaren. Yes, get the old drum machine off there, Malcolm. From the soundtrack of the film Amadeus, Mozart's, not life story, but sort of documentary... No, it's not a documentary, a dramatic idea based around that. That was something from the Marriage of Figaro, but there, it's worth you all seeing it, I think, really. Changing subject, before we finish, obviously the death of Mozart can't really touch us emotionally, I don't think, because we know he's been dead for so long. But this week has seen the passing of someone far closer to this programme. Il Gatto.
Oh, no.
È morto. The Italian cat, over Christmas, he came in through our cat flat, looking very peaky, he'd gone very thin. He said he seemed a bit lumpy.
You said to me on the phone that
That's
night
right,
that he wasn't
and he'd
feeling
lean
well.
against our potterton, like the heater kind of thing. And the other cats, instead of either fighting, they went round him, and they knew something was up, you know.
Oh.
And he heard Gambo. He was in while Gambo was doing the Italian cat in your pantomime. So he heard himself, the height of his achievement did come. He was conscious enough for that. But like Captain Oates, he went out, you know, out into the snow, I suppose, eventually. And this week he's not been seen, and we've got to face the fact that he's not going to... The Italian cat is not going to return. I mean, he was vicious but fair. I think that's what one can say of the poor beast. He treated everybody equally. I mean, he hated them all, frankly. But I think we ought to just play a little extra music this week. It's the theme from the Mogfather. Yes, in memory of the Italian cat from next door there who seemingly has passed away, the theme, or a little bit of the theme from The Godfather. Hasn't it been strange? Because last week, this very night, a week ago, we were celebrating, in a sense, the birthday, but in memory of Elvis Presley. And it's been a bit of a down with the Italian cat and Elvis to think about in 2 weeks. So let's think positive. Let's go out on a positive note, Janice. Whose birthday is it today? Somebody who I did meet. I met and we played with in concert with in the 1960s. He was a bit of a rat bag as well, actually, but he's definitely happy birthday today. Chuck Berry, who's 54 today.